Hello, Freebirds. Welcome to Connect and Refresh, prophetic encouragement for today. My name is Kimberly Woods, and I'm the founder of Oh Freebird Fly. And I have with me Jenna Shriver, who is our community director, and she's also the founder of Together Studios, which is a female-focused co-work space studio and community in Maryland. And say hi, Jenna. Say hi to everybody.
Hi, so excited to be here today.
So today we have a powerful topic that we're going to be talking about, and it is on embracing the process that leads to your destiny. And this is a topic that I think that sometimes that we don't always openly talk about. I mean, we can from a distance talk about process, but we really want to have just this open conversation about the ins and outs of process and how it's important that we go through this process, but also what it feels like when you're in it, and really maybe touch on some of the things that aren't talked about maybe openly. Because as female entrepreneurs, we are leaders in our life, in our business. If you have a ministry, whatever it is that this dream that God has given you to serve, you are a leader. And I know that just maybe not everybody, but sometimes we can, just go through the process quietly and not really talk about it. And I think that, with that, sometimes, when we don't hear it talked about, then we have a lot of questions like, am I doing something wrong? Is everything okay? And so while I do see that we go through process by ourselves, we also go through process with community. And that's either, it could be one person that you are in community with or many, whatever God has led you to, you know. And so we want to talk about that today. And so if you've never joined us for Connect and Refresh, we are Oh Freebird Fly, and we are a resource hub, I like to call it, for Christian female entrepreneurs, just offering every resource that you need to see your dreams realized. And Connect and Refresh is one of those resources to just bring that prophetic encouragement to you. So we're going to jump into this conversation today. If we would love to just hear who you are and where you're joining us from, say hi in the comments. And as throughout this live, we will, check in and just say hi to you and answer any of your questions. And, just feel free to share anything that you relate to and maybe what you've gone through, and it will probably help somebody else. We're all about helping other people. So maybe you find yourself in the process and you're wondering, like, is this all really necessary? Is this taking too long? Am I doing it right? Am I out of alignment? What in the world is going on? I feel like those can all be things that we kind of go through. And, you know, I feel like there's a few things that are important with that happen in process. And I believe that process produces healing, and it produces strength, skill, maturity. Each time that we go through process, I believe that we are matured if we will allow the Lord to take us through it, that we are matured. And I believe that process is to lead us to the new things that God has for us. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. And, I also, another area that I feel like happens in process is sometimes we can feel broken or weak. Have you ever felt that way, Jenna? I know. Yeah, right? Not knowing, like what in the world, or not ready. I feel like sometimes when we're aware of our process, we can feel like we're not ready to walk through something, or maybe we're being delayed or pulled back because we're not ready, punished, stuff like that. Um, I know that those are all things that I've felt through different process. And I also think that we really are always in process, but sometimes it's more noticed. Like throughout, do you notice that? Like where we can go through our life, we're always in process. We're gaining skill. We're God's processing with us, right? But then there's times it's really noticed. And I think that that's where we can feel like something's wrong. And so one important thing that I feel that uh, we need to do is value process and value being ready for the new that God has for us. And so that's why the language is embrace process, because it does lead you to your destiny. And I believe that it leads you to, points in your destiny. And so yeah. So I want to start by asking Jenna. She's going to share some experience that she's had. Um, so Jenna, has there been a time when going through process that you felt like you were missing out, or missing out on something because you were in this process too long, or you felt it was too long, right?
Yeah.
Or that it was taking too long? And um, what did you discover that God was doing after that season was over? So this is a two-part question for that. So go ahead and share with us.
Yeah, I have absolutely felt like process was taking too long. And because it felt like it was taking too long, I did feel like I was missing out. And so, what I've really had to learn is that God has perfect timing for everything, and He's so intentional, and He would never withhold anything good from me. So, if it seems like it's taking too long, there's definitely a reason in it. He's either trying to spare me from something unnecessary, or putting things in the right place for his right time. But I've definitely felt that way. And what I feel like I've discovered after a really long season of very noticeable process is I just realized that God was so intentional to take me through a process of healing my heart, like my mind, even my body, and in order to be able to like bring me the promises and answers to prayer that he had given me. Like so that for me is really huge, to be able to look back on that and say, oh, I can see now, I can see you were healing my heart, you were healing my mind, you were healing my body. And I'm so thankful for those things in order to prepare me for where I am now and moving forward.
Okay, so can you share a specific something that was a process that you have gone through, and in that, maybe even just because I feel like, process produces healing, and healing your heart, like for the call in your life, and
Yeah.
being a female entrepreneur. What is something that you've processed through like that?
I have two different directions. So I want to ask you which way you want me to go. I have more like the family direction, but I also have the business direction. Is there one that you want me to dive into?
Okay, so let's go family, because I know that there's a lot of female entrepreneurs that have family, they have little kids, they might have
Mhm.
kids in school, things like that. And I just feel like, or I don't know what direction you're going, but we're gonna go family. So
That's fine. It's really interesting that today popped up on my memories that today, 2 years ago, we announced to our sons that we were pregnant again. And so that I just felt like was really intentional for the conversation that we're having today, because that was a breakthrough moment for our family. And God had me in process for years leading up to that, where He was healing my heart and my mind and my body. I experienced a physical healing that then enabled us to be able to conceive for our daughter. And I had this promise in my heart that God was going to give me a daughter. And it was a process of faith, of waiting for God's timing, but also clinging just so tightly to hope, knowing that he wasn't holding out any good thing for me, and that I could trust His timing. And He did. Like, He answered that desire in my heart and that promise He had given me, and He gave us our daughter. And so I feel like it was really intentional to, today, that memory popped up, that there was there was a physical process, there was a heart process, there was a faith process, and still, like, I'm still in process, but to be reminded of that breakthrough moment, so that anyone listening today can be encouraged that even if you're in the waiting, if you're in the process, like, your breakthrough moment is going to come. He's not going to hold out any good thing from you. And you're going to have your own testimony of how God's goodness broke through in your life. And, after and during your process.
That's really good. Yeah. So I feel like, um, so maybe you're out there and you have been going through a process that's similar. It doesn't mean, of healing or waiting on this promise like that has to do with your body. And maybe you felt like, you were missing out or it's taking too long and all of that. Maybe that's where you are right now. And I really feel like I feel like sometimes we can, when it get when we're waiting so long, it can feel like, when is this really ever going to happen? And I just feel like on this live right now, or that there is a, like, a refreshing, like, refreshment, and like a strengthening for you to move through all the way, and to see that, go through the process, and really hit that, that breakthrough time. And so if there's anyone on here that, that you, when you hear this, that's you, that you are like, I'm waiting for this healing for my body, or I'm waiting for a baby, to this promise of a baby. And Jenna has breakthrough in that area. And so I do believe that one person's breakthrough, that they can speak into that, and really just release that. So would you pray for them real quick?
Oh, absolutely. I might cry, but oh, Holy Spirit, thank you for this opportunity to share your story in my life. And it's so precious to my heart. And I know it's so near and dear to so many women who are either listening now or will be later, that I even feel like there may be this thing that's being presented to them of jealousy or envy. And I just speak that you would never, ever put something good in front of their eyes without the promise that you had that for them too. And so I want to speak to hope in their hearts, that you would awaken hope, or you would reinvigorate the hope in their hearts and in their lives, that they would just cling so tightly to you in the midst of the process. They would not give up hope in your goodness and in your power and ability to break through in their lives. And I speak the strength of endurance through the process of whatever it is that they're going through, whether it is in their body, whether it is in their family, whether it's in their business or ministry or dreams, that they would have your strength of enduring, in Jesus' name. I think you're muted, Kimberly.
I'm muted. I'm not muted. That's beautiful, Jenna. I think today is significant because it's like sharing on your breakthrough today. So I think that is pretty significant with that. So thank you. So if that's you, grab it, grab that, and we bless you. So yeah, I feel like there was that process in healing. There's like, I feel like even like where we are now with, just the things with COVID and stuff like that. Some of you might feel like, when is this going to be over? And you're like, maybe I feel like it's that same, you've gotten to that point and you need to push. There's like that, I don't know if I can take anymore.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's even, my husband, he says these words sometimes that are just so like, whenever that whole thing of accidentally prophetic kind of thing, he's always saying these things right in the moment that needs to. And I had this dream about that. it's almost over. Like, and then he just started speaking, it's almost over, it's almost over, it's almost over. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So maybe that's for somebody that it's almost over. And this this breakthrough that you're waiting for. Uh, so something with I love that testimony, Jenna, just about healing and that breakthrough. So another area of process, that I want to speak to, and this is like my personal with process of healing is I feel like sometimes we can, like you were talking about, it's like comparing yourself to another's process. And I feel like sometimes people are led to, and I want to speak towards healing, because healing, and the reason why I believe that this is so important is because we want to speak towards the whole woman. So we are for women who have dreams, businesses, and ministries. Traditional church, in the church ministry, and marketplace ministry, your business. And so we speak towards that. That is who we're speaking to. But we have been called to talk about the whole woman because we believe that every part of you has to do with what God's called you to do. And so I believe that healing, whatever that is in whatever area, is so important. But I think sometimes we can be led or we can lead in the way of that my process or someone else's process of healing, yours should look like that. Your timing, uh, you should be healed already. It should only take this amount of time. It should, if you follow these steps, you'll have this. And I feel like a lot of times people are led that way. And this is in all areas. This is not just in the church, in the body of Christ, but this is all kinds of places. And so I want to speak towards that. And I want to bring you some encouragement towards that. Your process does not look like another. Your healing process does not look like another. Now, Jenna's testimony, when we hear someone's testimony, it like goes, that's what's possible. And we go, we attach our, like, that whole possibility muscle, or that, oh my gosh, this is what's possible. So if that speaks to you, you go, that's what's possible. And but your time of process or how it happens, all those things might look a lot different, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I want to speak openly about that whole thing. If you've been led to that you should already be healed, or your process should be done, stuff like that, like all of that, I want to just speak to you and say release and freedom in that area, that your process does not have to look like another. And so I believe it's important that one, that you're not compared to someone else, but that you also don't compare yourself to someone else's process, but that you process with the Lord, because the Lord will constantly move you and go, no, this is what I say. But also the community, the people that you're vulnerable with, they can also help with speaking life and even what they hear God speaking. But I want to bring just that freedom in that area, and that uh, that your process might look different, and that's okay. My own personal is my process of healing, like with fear and stuff like that. And I think a lot of times, it can look like different things, like that you should just snap out of it, or I'm going to speak towards fear and depression as a female entrepreneur. um I have not really experienced depression, but fear has been an area that I have experienced. And um, if somebody is helping you along with fear, if somebody is helping you in a process of processing through fear, they're not necessarily enabling you. And so I want to bring freedom to that whole area and speak truth into that whole area. Maybe they are, but you need to, that's where it's like, Lord, I want to process well, and I want to process with you fully. I don't want to hide. I don't want to close off and not allow people in. Lead me to who needs to be in my process. So I just speak that to you, that I want to pray that over you, that I pray for the right people to be in on your process. And I pray for just that. I just say, just if there's anything that's been spoken over you about that, someone's enabling you and stuff like that, and that is not truth, I just say no to it in the name of Jesus. And that sometimes um, processing through fear, healing, whatever that is, when people come alongside you, it's not always this, they're enabling you. And so I want to speak to that, but also that the Lord, that sometimes your process might look different and the Lord might take you through things that he wants to strengthen in you. Maybe it's not just like that. Maybe it is. Maybe it's like one moment, you know, but sometimes there's a process. And I think that we need to not be afraid of that we can all look different. And so that is speaking to you if you've ever just been led that way, or even if you have led that way. Don't. I want to speak to, just don't, we're all different. We've all been given different timelines, callings, gifts, process. And the most important thing is that we process how God has led us to process. And that's your foundation. So I want to just speak over anyone who is processing through fear of any kind that is, you feel like is limiting your, delaying you or limiting your ability to do what God has called you to. And so I'm going to pray over you. Father, I thank you for every single woman on here that has a dream, a business, or a ministry, and that has any type of fear that is holding back. You feel like it's holding you back, or you feel like it's delaying you in any way. Maybe you feel shame or weakness, or um, like you're too broken to move forward. I just want to speak and release just total freedom to you, and just that your process with the Lord actually is strengthening you for the next moment, for the moments that He has designed for you all the day, for all the days of your life. And I just hear that there's a great announcement coming. You're not a fearful person, but you are walking through the process with the Lord. And so I just bless your process, and I just pray that um, I pray just peace and liberty over you in the name of Jesus. Okay, so so far we've touched on process through healing. I didn't know we were going this direction, the healing, because all those things, and processing through fear. And so maybe that is, you know, maybe you have gone through any of those things. And if you have, I just tell you to grab onto those things. Those are both of our testimonies. And I believe that it can just totally, our one person's breakthrough is another's freedom and liberty. And so, yeah. So another area that I want to talk about is just when you see other people succeeding with their dreams, business, and you wonder why you aren't succeeding, or why it's not happening as fast as them. So I believe that this is another area with process. Excuse me. that needs to be talked about. Would you agree, Jenna?
Absolutely. Yes.
um, sometimes there's reasons why you're not there. Yeah. Sometimes there's reasons why maybe you're not succeeding or not succeeding fast like you should. Maybe there's something, maybe there's something you need to learn or,
Hmm.
a skill or all kinds of things, right? But we're going to specifically talk about process
Hmm.
and we're going to talk about comparison and comparing um, when you see others succeeding with that dream, that business, and you're like, they're doing the same thing I'm doing. And I think that's where people get caught up in the comparison is they're
Hmm.
like, or it's like a similar thing, or maybe they feel like they're running with somebody and they feel like they should be where they are.
Yeah.
And you can wonder why you're not. But I want to speak towards just that you cannot compare your process with anybody else because you probably have not seen behind the scenes of their process. What their process has been to even get them where they are, what connections God has brought them through the process to get them to where they are, and just where they are in their process. And so, Jenna, I want to ask you, has there been a time that you've been tempted to compare your process and timing with another?
Absolutely.
All that happening. And I want to tell me about it, tell us about it and a
Yep.
specific thing. And then what did you discover with God that you could encourage others in?
Okay. So I'm about to get real vulnerable.
Get real vulnerable. Oh.
Yep. So I've been a photographer for 14 years and I started out in business doing weddings and portraits. And that's where I thought my success in business was supposed to be. And I remember being at a conference one time and hearing a photographer who I really looked up to publicly approve of another friend of hers. And it was this was beautiful because she honored her friend who
Yeah.
was kind of newer into the industry, wasn't like a celebrity in the industry, so to speak,
Okay.
yet. But she publicly said it, and it was like a Christian conference. So she said, this girl is so anointed by God in what she does. And I remember being so jealous in the moment and feeling like,
Am I not annoying?
well, yes. Yeah. That was the question that came to mind was, well, am I not? What about everybody else sitting in the crowd with me? And I just felt like that started me on a journey because it wasn't an immediate thing, but it started me on a journey of discovering um, where has God anointed me? And because that's really what it awoke in my heart was I want to discover how and where God has anointed me and do that, not just try to fit him into what I want to do.
Mm,
And so that started a really great transition in my life. And it started a really amazing, deep, difficult process.
yeah.
And so I just hope that like getting super vulnerable about that area of envy, like that's what it was. Like I was super envious of the fact that she did carry this anointing and she was recognized for it.
Well,
And yet it led to something really beautiful. And I feel like I'm beginning, like I'm still in process, but I feel like I'm beginning to discover where God has anointed me and partnering with him in that instead of trying to, like I said, trying to fit him into what I thought I was supposed to do, what looked like success.
okay, that's so good. Anybody else been through that? Could be anywhere, guys.
Hmm.
Business, church leadership,
Yep.
corporate world, wherever you are, whoever you're called, your teacher, whatever it is. Have you experienced that where someone else was recognized like that? Um, okay, so I want to say that um but she didn't know the other girl's process too. I think that's
Exactly.
key. Like what did that girl go through? What has her been her journey? How has she walked with God? How like I think about like we don't always see the behind the scenes process of somebody. And I think that there's two things with what you're talking about is I think that we need to really uh that I feel like when we experience that, when we see that, going from that place of I will celebrate others because there's going to be moments in our life that we're acknowledged, and the process that's been happening behind the scenes is going to it's going to come out, and you're going to be announced. And I feel like that word announcement, I
Mhm.
believe that that's why it's important to allow yourself to go through the process and allow God to take you through that take you through that process, because the process leads to your destiny. And I feel like we're talking women with dreams, businesses, and ministries. Business can be your ministry, right? Called to the marketplace, called to traditional church, uh in the church,
Mhm.
right? Okay, local church, whatever. And then there's that whole your marketplace ministry.
Mhm.
Um, there is you're gonna be announced, guys, okay? Because you're a dreamer. God's given you dreams to release on the earth. And you your product, whatever it is, you will be noticed. You're gonna be announced, okay? So you gotta get rid of that whole thing of not wanting to be announced. You're gonna be announced. But I think it's important that we process with the Lord and go, why am I feeling this? I want to go like taking a place of I'm going to celebrate um that person's process and what they went through, and now look where God's taken them. So maybe that you felt that, maybe you have experienced that, like Deb says, I've experienced that sometimes others forget that they were in a similar process. Oh, like, yes. That's another thing. Don't forget people who are walking in a process right now. Don't really forget that you've been in a similar process as they are. And um, yeah, That's good. That's good, Deb. uh, so I I want to say to you, Jenna, that I have seen you. I've When you did what was it called? The Carroll County Biz
Mhm. The
Challenge.
Biz
So
Challenge.
Jenna did a Carroll County Biz Challenge. And there's so many things that Jenna has been in process over these years with being behind the scenes, being processed, and where she was part of a community, and then being in process with her photography, and then even also business. Like I've just see when you took that stage, and that was like one of your moments of announcement. And we were cheering, the whole team, my husband, we were like cheering you on from online. And I remember just going back and forth from my office to the Chris was watching, and I was going back and forth. I'm like, do you hear her? Like there was like, I was like, she's such a boss. Like, but you were dropping it, and you were so like it was a moment of just announcement, and all the process you had gone through. It was just one announcement. I've seen other ones. Just that was just one. So I want to
Thank
acknowledge that
you.
on here, that you are anointed.
Thank
You
you.
are anointed for entrepreneurship, and really uh, leading in the entrepreneurial world, uh, not only spiritually but practically. You have such a way of this practical release of that the how to, and to actually get something done. You have such
Thank you.
you're totally anointed for that, and leading Together Studios and even the community with Freeburg Fly. So I want to
Thank
say that.
you. That means a lot. I appreciate it.
So maybe you've gone through those things, and you've watched other people go through the process. So I want to say discover with the Lord. Let it, like Jenna said, it sent her on a discovery to go, God, what do you have for me?
Yeah.
It's if you feeling the there's two things that can be felt in that moment. You can feel like a if you feel the jealousy part, the jealousy side of, first of all, you're not a jealous person. No, I'm speaking to all of y'all there. It's not who you are. You're not a jealous person.
Right.
But you can be presented with that feeling of, oh, but I'm going to miss out, or oh, that could take away from me, or all those things. And I want you to shift that and go, no, I celebrate her. I celebrate her process. I celebrate what God's doing in that everything she's went through. Look at that and look, it's finally like happening, right? But then shift it to go, all right, God, let that propel me to discover what you have for me.
Yes.
So moving it from, because you can be presented with jealousy, and then you can go down this long path of why not me? Why her? All those things. Or you can go, I'm going to grab that moment and go, that's what's possible. Lord, I want every single thing that you have for me, and let it like propel you and catapult you forward. And I think that you did that, even if in that moment, or even if a week went by, you were dwelling in this stuff.
It's all part of the process,
Yeah,
right?
but let it propel you
Mhm.
guys. Get curious with God and let it move you forward. So thank you for sharing, being vulnerable and sharing that with
Oh,
us.
you're welcome.
Um,
Yep. Just believe it's going to lead to goodness for other people.
yes, I
Mhm.
agree. So I want to touch on a um, a process of becoming a leader, because I think that that's another, and I think that's the last little area that I want to touch on is uh, maybe you're in so being a female entrepreneur, you are a leader, you're leading people, guys. just you are. We're called, everyone is leading someone. And I believe that us, his kingdom, his daughters in the kingdom, that we need to grab hold of that. Like, I'm called to lead, and I will lead the way that he's designed me to lead. So maybe you're in the process of becoming a leader, and that is my experience. And I want to just, I want to speak to those who are at different stages of the process of embracing that process. And I want to encourage you, because I didn't know what God was doing before. And so I want to kind of like come in and help you embrace it at the beginning. So you're not wondering for years. Uh, so something with myself is that when I was in the process of becoming a kingdom, like this leader, I used to really run from uh, any type of leadership uh, situation. I would be silent, although I had a lot to say. So maybe you'll be able to relate to this. And, uh, I had a lot to say, but I was afraid to say it. But I was always brought into these leadership situations. So maybe you're finding that, be, just recognize that. I was being brought onto like early on. I was, brought onto uh, this board for our city, and I was welcomed on. But I was so afraid of being around powerful people and leaders that I would just stay silent, and I was kind of red faced, things like that. But I also found myself being intimidated by powerful people, or people who were more dominant, or had a strong personality. Um, and I would cry. So I don't know if that's for somebody out there. I, when I would be presented with those situations, I felt powerless. And so my response was crying and running. I got to get out of here. Anybody else? Let me get out of this room. so I don't look stupid, right? Okay. So I have been put in these situations but I recognized that I was always running and um but I would be put into situations like that. I would be put into in business in places that I shouldn't be, you know, and church all of a sudden one day I was thrown into like church leadership and I would be in these meetings and uh different things, but I would be silent and I was afraid to speak uh and I would cry again. I cried so much. But it felt like such a weakness. I felt like, as a female, I was too emotional. And um, but one day I decided to embrace the process. And so I want to hit this head on. If you're in that right now, whatever your age, I want to tell you to embrace the process of becoming a leader. And I got vulnerable and I decided instead of to run from it, to hit it head on. And so not running from the situations, but going into them. And I told my husband that I needed to grow in leadership and that I was tired of, you know, running from powerful people or someone who had a little more of a dominant personality. Um, because I've experienced, and I said that we were going to talk very open on this call. I've experienced not nice people in leadership things. I've experienced people trying to make me look stupid. I've experienced jealousy. I've experienced all those things, and I did not know how to handle it. And I would run from it. So I went through a process of telling my husband, I know that God's calling me to lead, and I cannot do this if I continue to run. And so I want to encourage you with what I did. And I told someone who I'm just going to be open with this. I told someone who would hold me accountable, who it rubbed me the wrong way. My husband is very truthful and he is he's not going to hold back. And I didn't need someone who would tell me what I wanted to hear or kind of like, it's okay, you don't need to do this. I needed someone who would tell me, no, this is where your blind spots are, and this is where you need to improve. Because he was the closest person to me that knew my fears, he knew all those things, right? And so I went to him and I said, I need help with this. And he helped me process through it. And I told him he processed through like, well, why are you afraid? Because it was all about fear. What are you afraid of? If you speak up, what are you afraid the other person's going to do? Like, so all those things. And I was able to process through it with him, but also asking the Lord to empower me and knowing that he would never lead me into a situation that I could not handle. He would I would I made a decision that I don't care if I cry, I don't care if I get red face. I'm going to stay and I'm going to speak when you call me to speak, things like that. So I don't care if I look like a fool. And that I think was just another thing is just I didn't care. I had to go through this thing where I embraced it. And so I want to just encourage you to embrace the process of becoming a leader and allowing yourself to go through hard situations and hard conversations. And yes, you might cry. It does not make you weak if you cry. It does not make you weak. It makes you alive.
Mhm.
um, you might have to walk through that crying in front of some people. Maybe they'll see that you're serious. Maybe you'll have to cry through some situations. I don't know. But I think the step is to embrace becoming that leader. And so uh, I've been asked to speak. And the other thing I want to speak towards is if you're in the process with God, being okay to say no to things that you know you're not ready for. And I was talking to Jenna yesterday about this, and that I've been asked to speak at places of like in leadership things that I was still in a process that I knew I was not ready to be in that place. Just because someone asks you does not mean that that's where God's leading you. Just because there's this open door or this opportunity does not mean that you have to take every single opportunity.
Mhm.
And I think that that's another area of freedom that I want to release to you, that you know the voice of your Father. You know, if you are in Christ, he says that uh, we know his voice and we will not follow another. So you have the ability to actually know what he's called you to. And so if you don't have to just say yes to every single opportunity, everything that opens up to you. And you have the ability to know I'm in process in this area and I'm actually not ready. Um, I can look back now and know that I would have been silenced and I would have probably it would have it would have delayed and hurt my process because I wasn't ready for that. If I would have said, could God strengthen me through all those things? Absolutely, but I was not ready for it, and I know it, and it's okay. I want to speak into females right now, and I want to say, female entrepreneurs, that you are you are strong. You know the voice of your Father, and you can actually be led by Him and know direction and where He's calling you and things like that. Um, if you are married, I want to speak to something that God has been showing me, that my union is with Christ and my union is with my husband. My he is Christ is my first alignment and my husband is my first alignment. So if you're married, I want to speak towards that I feel like God is doing something with marriages and realigning marriages, and that my husband give your husband the opportunity to actually speak into things. So if you have taken, and I wanted Jenna is going to share something. If you have if you have been afraid to allow your husband to speak into certain things because maybe there's whatever a situation that you feel like, well, he can't lead me in this because he's not he doesn't know anything in that area, or he's not an entrepreneurial leader, or he's not really following Christ like I am, or he's not all these things. We could have all these stuff, right? God told me a long time ago that I used to go to these conferences. I would go to schools. I've been to, Bethel so many times. And a prayer of my heart and something that God had promised and told me is that everything that I show you and you learn while you're there, your husband will get. And he it's been confirmed, it's been prophesied, he's told me it. It's a desire of my heart that the things that he could not attend, or the things, and God proved it. Like we were in a conference, I was in a conference, a Power and Love with Todd White in like 2016. And God promised me that the revelation that I got, that my husband would receive the same thing, because God is about alignment. God is about union, and our union is with Christ, and he knows our union is with Christ and our union is with our husband. It wasn't with anybody else. It's it's with it's with Christ, right? It's with Christ and it's with our husband, as if with how Jesus is with the church. And so I want to speak to that, and I want to give this testimony because I think that it will bless you. And so I am in a conference, and and I'm learning all these things, and my husband's at home. And if you know Power and Love, they send you out on the streets to pray over people for healing or prophesy over them. And when they send you off for a couple hours and then you come back and there's all these testimonies and they get on stage and they testify what they experience. My husband texts me and he says, "Hey, I just got this like drive by kind of thing. And there's somebody there that," and he gave me what God told him. There's somebody there that has this, and there's this certain type of bird and all this stuff that had to do with it. After he texts me that, someone gets on stage and testifies what he just told me. My husband was not there. This was not televised. My husband wouldn't say he's prophetic, but it was a confirmation, and it was a testimony of God's faithfulness, and He has continued to do that. When I've gone to Bethel, I went to worship you, and I learned all this stuff, and I had all this breakthrough. And I get on the phone to tell my husband, this is new stuff we had never heard about. I was like awakened to all this stuff. And I get on the phone with my husband at a break and I go to start telling him what I learned. And he's telling me what God has been speaking to him. And it's what I learned when I was just learned. So I want to speak towards alignment and what God is doing with husbands and wives. And don't think that wherever you might think that my husband isn't in a place that he can lead me. God knows different. And I'm just going to say that. And you can agree. I give you my breakthrough. I give you my testimony. Chris and I do not have we've been married 24 years and we have a pretty interesting marriage testimony. So I just want to say what's possible. And Jenna, would you share real quick about what happened to you recently with the business idea that your husband brought you?
Yeah, sure. So with Together Studios, opening an in-person place in the middle of the pandemic, of course, has been super interesting. And so there are unique challenges that we're facing right now that no one's ever faced before in the past. And I just had been praying for an answer and a solution to be able to offer to others to hopefully bring in those who need it. And I just didn't get it. And I really felt Holy Spirit to asked me to ask Justin, who is my husband, for a solution. And we were laying in bed and I was just like, this is what I'm struggling with. I was super vulnerable with him with all the feelings, but what I know to be true. And I was like, what do you think I should do? Like, what's your idea? And he sat there and he thought for a second and he's like, why don't you offer them a pay what you can type of a membership? And I was like, it hit my heart. I was like, that's it. That's absolutely the answer. And to be able, because my husband is a police officer, so he's not in business. He has no desire to be in business. And yet he is so amazingly supportive of me and my calling. But I don't normally consult with him on business decisions because he doesn't want to be consulted, honestly. Yeah. that's more it. He's like, you do your thing, I'll do my thing, we'll support each other. And, but yet God gave him the solution that I needed, and it was hidden in him. And right. And so I've been able to release that, and I'm in process with that now, which is interesting.
But I just love that it was fast. Like she took what he said and she ran with it.
Yeah.
She knew God is he is aligning husbands and wives and bringing them into alignment. It doesn't mean that Jenna's testimony, her husband's a police officer. He is not an entrepreneur, and but he brings you into this alignment together to be able to fulfill the things that God has called you to together. God would never separate. He would never bring together a husband and wife and then separate them to where your alignment is not with your husband. And that's something that he is showing me in this season is your alignment, your union is with me, and your union is with your husband. Everything else comes after that.
Can I release a testimony that speaks to seeing the relationship with your husband in that way.
Yeah.
So a little while ago, I was really struggling with, and I'm only sharing this because I know my husband's okay with it, by the way. I just have to preface that. I felt like we were in such different places in our relationship with the Lord, and it was really hard on me because I so desired him to be where I was. And so the way I saw our marriage was very disconnected. And like, I literally saw it like I was dragging him along. And I got a prophetic word that said, you feel like you're dragging him along. You're not. You're hand in hand. You're walking side by side. And so that was so beautiful because I'm like, that's exactly what I was seeing. Like when I pictured my marriage, and this person doesn't know me, doesn't know us from anybody. And so it helped me to realign my vision, the way I saw our marriage with how God saw our marriage. And I was also then able to go to my husband and apologize for being like pushy in ways with things. So it really just brought so much healing and freedom in our marriage. And I just have a feeling that there's probably going to be a lot of people listening to this that's how maybe they see their relationship with their husband, or their husband sees it with them, and they feel like they're being pushed, so they're being pushy. And God sees you as in perfect alignment, that you're hand in hand, you're walking together.
That's
side
right.
by side. You're not disconnected. You're not one ahead of the other, one behind the other. You're side by side and together.
That is, yes. No, we are
Mhm.
hand in hand. We don't always see the other person's process.
Yep.
That's the other, even with our spouses, I feel like we're gonna have to do another thing on being entrepreneurs with husbands and that whole realm, because it's like, um, I just gotta say, release your husbands
Yeah.
to be them fully, and don't no more holding them to be something that God has not called them to be or do or produce or model or all those things. And I just release that freedom, that you don't have to hold them to that. They don't need to look like another. They don't need to look like another. They need to look like who God created them to be, and to walk with you side by side in this unity and this union that he's called you to, in this equal partnership that he's called you to. He's called you to run beside each other. And so I just release agreement, alignment, and that unity with husbands and wives for just in the kingdom, and being a kingdom entrepreneur, being in a traditional church ministry setting, or being in an entrepreneur thing. Um, your spouse does not need to do, in order for y'all to be in alignment, doesn't mean that he needs to be doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
Even if you're on a church staff, if you are a preacher, if you have a business, whatever it is, but let God process it, and let God show you what that is, and show you the right alignment and what you should be doing. So that's it. That's all we have for today. I hope that this blessed you. I hope that this helped with just, I feel like, just breathe, and it's okay, and process is okay, and embrace God's process. And we love you. And we do these connect and refresh every single month, once a month. And we bring a prophetic encouragement for you, but you can also join us inside our free Facebook community. It's Oh Free Bird Fly Community. And you can connect with other female entrepreneurs. And so that's it. I hope y'all have a wonderful day, and we will talk to you again soon. Bye, guys.